All right, folks. I'm doing it. um, this is what I believe to be the start of something that I'm excited about. I'm excited about. Um, as a person who I consider myself a thinker, and I like to think about a bunch of different things, and sometimes to some people it doesn't even make sense because, like, some of the things for instance, right? I like thinking about marketing, but I don't work in marketing particularly or anything like that. Um, I just enjoy some of the concepts. I like some of the thinking that you have to be a marketer. I like the puzzle of figuring out, um, on the one hand, well, really on two hands. On one side, you know, how do I connect the, how do I create a product that is attractive to a customer base, right? And all that goes into that, from the product design, choosing colors, but also making sure that it solves a real problem that individuals are interested in having solved. I love those things, and yet I've never worked in marketing unless you want to consider some of the things that I've tried to do or maybe more than marketing. What I really really love is branding. I should say more than anything else. Um, you know, and how I kind of define it is how do I how do you figure out the essence of an organization, the essence of a product. What is the foundational thing that makes this product unique even amongst its peers? Personal branding as well. Yes, everybody in general, we bring to this world a lot of the same things, but what are the few things that make each and every one of us unique? And how do I allow that to shine in a positive way, in a way that's fruitful, in a way that's helpful? Yeah. So I'm going to admit I don't even necessarily have a name for what I'm doing here right now yet, right? Um, but I do know that one of the things for a lot of those of us who are thinkers, who are learners, we like to share the things that we come across. The nuggets, the gems, the the treasures that we come across along the way. It's when I find something that I find valuable. It's the fun of finding something valuable is not to keep it to yourself, but to share, right? This touches on some of the stuff that I love, right? But to share the gospel of that thing, the good news of that thing. And so, what I want to do here is share good news that I believe will bless people, which will help to build people up. And some of the, well, maybe let's maybe dive a little bit into that. I'm putting this up on my, the original channel that I really started launching a lot of my work from, a little over 10 years ago. And I've renamed this channel so many times I don't even know what it currently is named, but I think, youtube.com/Coach Vaughn, I think will get you there. But some of the things that I'm personally interested in, I kind of want this to be a catch-all for all of it. I want to eventually be doing things like interviews. I already have some people I'm interested in interviewing, and I want to. A lot has changed about me. At one point I was trying to capture the biggest audience that I could. I wanted to use YouTube to leverage and to become well known and to become, invited to speak here and there. And those things would be nice, and those things sound exciting, but I'm fine even just having the opportunity to share my thoughts. And even if it's that nobody listens, you know, for me, it's helpful to just get these thoughts out of my head so that I make room for new things that, God is revealing to me, whether through his word, whether through other people that I come across, just in the course of life. But I want this to be an opportunity for me to share as often as I can what I've learned in hopes that it'll bless somebody. And I have learned a lot. So some of the topics that probably will come up on here are all topics that were relevant to me. Probably the thing I'm always most excited about is the gospel of Jesus Christ. So that's going to be, I'm going to talk a bit about that from time to time. I got to stop saying but I'll work on that as I take this journey. So the gospel of Jesus Christ is one of the things that I'm excited about. I'm excited about, productivity may not necessarily be the word, but I am to some extent always interested in, if a work is being done, then how does that work get streamlined in the best way possible to take most of the headache out and to make it, a streamlined process, a process that just makes sense from beginning to end. What else am I interested in? I am also interested in leadership. Is a big topic for me. There's so much that goes into leadership, and I almost feel, leadership doesn't have to be something that we think about as, you have to be in a position of leadership or what have you. In some way, nor even have the influence per se of a leader. A lot of leadership is, can happen with no one else even around, without you necessarily leading people. But I think ultimately leadership is it's more about who you are choosing to be and how you're choosing to show up in the world for the good of the world. It's probably the best way that I would put it, right? And sometimes that might mean that there are times where you're by yourself and you're doing things that, nobody would notice. Nobody will even maybe immediately be affected by, but in some way, shape, or form, it is because it's helpful to the world, right? You might just be working on your garden, no intentions of leading anybody or what have you, but just saying, hey, I'm just trying to keep my property, let's say, clean. Even though you may not be leading anybody, nobody may come up to you and say, hey, I like this or what have you. Who knows? Maybe somebody still sees it from afar and is inspired by it, maybe even rebuked by it. Maybe they say to themselves, man, Harry's garden always looks spectacular, lawn cut, nice, everything like that. And I go home and mine is looking a little shabby. I need to do something a little bit better. That's leadership. So I want to talk about leadership. I want to talk about things in the culture. What's happening. I am a hip hop head, right? I was birthed into well, maybe not birthed, but from a young age, 3, 4, 5 years old, my older cousin Nicole introduced me to hip hop. And there's something that just captivates me about the art form of rap music, and just the verbal dexterity, the amount of literacy and intellect that it requires to be a rapper. It's just amazingly inspiring, in my opinion. So, but there's often a lot to talk about when it comes to those things, because one of the things that rap was built as somewhat of a mouthpiece for a culture. And a lot of black music is birthed out of sharing a message that touches on social issues. A lot of other music hasn't had to really deal with those types of things, but rap music and rap and just the hip hop culture was somewhat birthed out of that. And there are good things that come along with that. There are bad things that come along with that. But it's important because a lot of those things shape how individuals in our society think and how they see the world. So I want to talk about things that have to do with culture, things that might be happening in the news. I've been in my prayer time praying for Syria, praying for Turkey. The numbers have just gotten to, just under, last I checked earlier today, just under 22,000 people died in the earthquake that they had over there, which is, I am just like, have mercy. 22,000 people. I saw some of the videos of the buildings coming down, and you could just see the grief and the sorrow in people's face, knowing that they were looking, afar off at buildings that were where people were, knowing that people were in that moment losing their lives. On CNN today, I think there was a young lady from New York that they were interviewing who lost her sister, her brother-in-law, and her nephew in that earthquake. And so my heart was heavy, just seeing what they've been going through over there. We have Ukraine and Russia, and I've been praying for them as well, because we see what's been happening over there. War, human lives being lost. It's never a good thing. It's never a good thing. I've been praying for this country here, America. We have a lot of things that need to be resolved, and there was a point in time where maybe we thought that we had resolved a lot of the issues, but I think the past 15 years or so have really, really opened up our eyes and shown us that we aren't where we thought we were. We are not where we thought we were. And there's a lot of work to do amongst us as a people. Referring to those of us who live in the United States, there's a lot of work to do across racial lines, across wealth gap lines, all the kind of stuff. There's a lot of work to do, and I know sometimes we pride ourselves on, we're real quick to puff ourselves up, but I think the last 15 years have shown that we have some significant chinks in our armor. I'll leave that at that. And so I want to talk about these things. I want to talk about what I believe the Bible oftentimes has to say about some of those things. I'm no guru or anything like that. I'm not trying to be here to be a guru. I'm not trying to be here to solve everybody's problems. I'm just trying to be helpful. That's it. Simply helpful. And there may be some, somebody might come across this and I might say something that, maybe I didn't say it, at a time where I thought that somebody would listen to. Maybe somebody will listen to it 3 years from now, but it will have been right on time for them in the space that they're in. So that's what a lot of this is going to be about. And my goal is not to waste your time. I'm doing this video where I'm kind of talking a lot about just my thoughts or what have you. But I would never want anybody really to just sit down to just like spend their life hearing me just talk about the things that I want to do. That's not valuable. This is just an introduction. So I'm giving you an opportunity to kind of hear where I'm coming from, get to know me a little bit more, especially, contrasting for those of you who might happen to know about my videos from, 10, 11, 12, 13 years ago. Just kind of seeing, no, not 13, but maybe 11-ish, 12-ish, but kind of contrasting and seeing how I've grown since then and where I am at now. We'll talk about, I'm sure, marriage, some levels of parenting, fatherhood, just being a man. I'm hoping to interview, some women about being a woman. Hoping to interview entrepreneurs or, about the work they're doing, and people who are working everyday jobs. Like literally, I have accepted that I am not a specialist. All right. You have a lot of people out there who are specialists, who they are so laser focused in one thing. We were talking about marketing, branding. All they do is marketing and branding. And I'm amazed when I listen to them. But the way I've always been is I'm just interested in interesting things. Right. So I want to kind of talk about a lot of different things, technology, all these things, because all of these things I think make life interesting. So that being said, I'll share a couple of things with you all, before I wrap up here this evening, and that will be that. So I'm currently in the middle of reading a book, or I should say listening to a book. And the name of this book is called, what's the name of the book? Unreasonable Hospitality. And I forgot the exact name of the author, but he is the general manager of 11 Madison Park, I believe is the name of the restaurant in New York City. And they are a 4-star restaurant. Somebody out there? I might be wilding. They are a 4-star restaurant. And I don't know all the restaurants, 4-star. I think Michelin 4-star. I think they might have been ranked number 1 in the world at some point. Don't quote me on that, but I'm reading that book, and some of the way that he's, a lot of things when you read these different books, a lot of these things aren't things that you haven't heard before. One of the things that I've said in the past is that, a lot of things like motivation, personal development, things like that are simply the things that our parents tried to teach us when we were younger and we just didn't listen, right? And these are just ways that people are saying things that land better with us now. And that's why you do have so many motivational speakers. It's not that a lot of them are saying, there rarely are any of them saying something that the other one has not said. But what it is sometimes the way that somebody says it and how they say it, it just lands, it just resonates for some reason with, you in ways that other people, it didn't resonate with you. So I was reading the book, and one of the things, what did he say? I loved it. So he was quoting Walt Disney. Oh, okay. The author's name is Will Guidara. And he was quoting Walt Disney. He was talking about a scenario where Walt Disney, when they were building out, like, it was either Disneyland or Disney World, and one of the rides, there was like a bird was part of the ride, and when they built the bird, they brought it to Disney and said, hey, like, all right, we did the bird, it's ready to go. And Disney assessed the bird, and he said, nah, you have to go back to the drawing board. And they're like, what do you mean? And he said, because, birds breathe. And this bird, like, there's nothing that shows it that it's like breathing. So they're looking at him like, bruh, It's fake. This isn't even like the main part of the attraction. Nobody's going to notice this. And then what he said was, when I heard what they had said, I was like, oh, this is profound. So what he said was, people can feel perfection. And so I kind of took that, and as I thought about it, I revamped it a little bit, because at the time, in that part of the book, Will Guidara was talking about paying attention to details. And kind of what came to my mind was that people, or even if people don't see the details, they're still wowed by the excellence in them. All right, let me say that one more time. Even if people don't see the details, they're still wowed by the excellence in them. Them meaning the details. So I'll say it one more time, just to make sure that everybody got it. People, even if people don't see the details, they're still wowed by the excellence in the details, right? And so it just so happens that last night I finally got to see Wakanda Forever. We watched it here at my house, and there's so many things that are taking place in the movie that are outside of like the main focus of the movie, right? But yet the excellence in them aren't anything that you would ever say or ever have mentioned as you had noticed those things. But at the same time, just the way that God has designed us, subconsciously, we still pick up on the fact that, there are all these things going on. Like, for instance, this might be a good example. In one of the fight scenes, right? They're in the water and stuff. The only real part of the fight that we care about is, the main characters versus the main heroes versus the main villains. Okay, those are the fights that we're interested in. But yet there's tons of extra fighting going on in the rest of those scenes, and you could easily, somebody could ask, well, why did they even bother putting the rest of that there? We're not even paying attention to that. Nobody's ever gonna look off to the left and say, oh, you saw the move that villain A just put on hero A, or maybe let me not change that. Villain J just put on hero J. No, we never pay attention to most of that stuff. However, its presence there, even though we're not like super focused on it, its presence there has an effect on the experience. Because imagine if those things weren't there and it was just a one-on-one fight throughout. Certainly there's some creativity there, but the bigness, I call it, right? The bigness of that, of those moments in the movie, we would miss. It's the same thing with, it's kind of sticking with the theme of acting. I love, one of the reasons why I loved shows like, what show was it? Well, actors like Denzel Washington, or acting such as the West Wing, right? And Toby from the West Wing, and he's also I forgot what his name is, Dr. something on The Good Doctor, and he's also in Wakanda Forever, right? But one of the things that makes somebody like him, when we think about the best actors out there that we love, okay, what separates them are those details. I noticed, like, they don't just act with when they're talking or when the camera's on them. Sometimes it's the slight movement of their jaw, right? That you're not paying attention to it outright, but that simple movement changes the whole feel of that particular scene, because they just did that, because they just moved their head in a particular way, right? It's those slight things that change. You may not be able to put your finger on it, but your experience of it was so much better. And so I said, you know what? I tend to be a big picture thinker. That's part of me being an expert generalist. As I got from the book Range, or the author that wrote Range. But I do, in this season of my life, I want to challenge myself to dive into the details of things that that matter to me a bit more. And even if it doesn't matter to me, if it's something that I'm going to put my hand to do, then I kind of want to do it with all my might, and just see what it looks like, see how it affects the experience of my family, my wife, my children, my my staff at work, my whoever it is, the content that I put out, friendships, the upkeep of the house, all these different things. I want to see kind of where that goes. I'll drop one other thing from that book, and then I'll call it a night. In the book, he specifically said, I thought this was profound, but he was talking about giving criticism and feedback, and how a lot of people are afraid of criticism. A lot of people are afraid of feedback. A lot of people, on the one hand, don't want to receive feedback, don't want to receive criticism. They're afraid of it. And then on the other hand, most people, because they know other people don't like it, most people don't like to give feedback or criticism, because most people don't like the negative emotions that are going to be sent back their way for giving the criticism, right? But what he said was, criticism is investment. He said criticism only happens, real criticism, of course, constructive criticism only happens when somebody has a vested interest in you, and seeing you become the best that you can be. When somebody doesn't care about you, they don't care to share any criticism with you. If somebody doesn't care about you, they're going to let you walk around with that, that food. I'll use my beard. That food in my beard, right? They won't tell Vaughn that, Vaughn, you have food in your beard. They won't tell Vaughn, hey Vaughn, you have a stain on your clothes, right? The other day, I have this one pair of pants. I love them. Have mercy, but they have like a tiny hole in the back of them, right? And my wife is like, man, you need to go get just get a new pair. Most of the time, how I wear them, nobody could see it. But once or twice, like somebody was like, hey, I think you might have a hole in the back of your pants. But the people who when somebody says that, is because, hey, they don't want you walking around, looking crazy. And that's appreciated. Or it's funny, because when it comes to something like how we look, if something on our clothing is off or what have you, or if we do have something in our beard, we don't care about those things. But when it comes to something in our character, right, we tend to shy away from that kind of stuff. And a large part of it is because when it comes to character issues, we feel like somebody is stepping on who we are. We feel like they're stepping on our identity. But no, the reality is, it's because I care about who you are. It's because I care about your identity. That is why I give the criticism. And so I think there's some space that we have to take, especially in a world where, right now everybody's like, nobody even feels like you should have to listen to criticism. Everybody's kind of like, just do you. And it's like, just do you actually doesn't work a lot of the times in the end. You know what I'm saying? Like, first of all, it's hard to just do you, because we live in a world where we're all like connected in some way, shape, or form. Like, I can't just do me and not care about the others around me and how me doing me affects them. That's one, but that's a whole other rabbit hole we're not going to go down. But criticism is we have to be willing for, because the most important thing about us is our character, right? And character, our character identity, whatever we want to say, all of those things. Like, don't we want somebody to come to help make sure that there's no food in the beard of our character, but that the character that we share with the outside world is cleaned up, it's presentable, it's impactful, and it does what God has created for it to do and to accomplish in this world. You feel me? So, anyway, thank you all if you listened up to this point. Thank you very much. I'm going to upload this to YouTube. I'm going to upload this to, my podcast. I got to figure out, have mercy. This is a tough one. I kind of got to make a decision now, don't I? You know what? We're going to see. I have a podcast. I have like 2 podcast channels. I'm going to really have to decide. I'm just going to upload it. I'm not going to necessarily choose a name right here on this mic. Wherever I upload it, though, you'll know that that's the name of the podcast. Especially when it comes to the podcast upload. If you're watching this on YouTube, it's going to be at Averages Failure / Coach Vaughn. That won't be the podcast name, but we'll see. I'm going to name it. Maybe y'all will even have some suggestions, though, that might be better. And maybe I'll change the name. Who knows? We'll see. But thank you all for listening. Hopefully something is, I said in here was helpful to somebody that decided to listen. And I do hope that this was worth your time in listening. Because like I said, I don't want this to just be you're spending your life listening to Vaughn. I want you to live your life. I'm just hoping that something I say here is helpful as you go ahead and do that living. And maybe one day you won't even need to listen to this because you would have somewhat found your own rhythm and what's working well for you. And you'll maybe start your own podcast and share that wisdom and share that knowledge with others. So that's it. I'll leave it at that. Peace.